Dungeons & Dragons adventures published before the early to mid 2000s made a lot of assumptions about player motivation, which is different to player character motivation, which we're about to get into. Player motivation is simply, why are these people in the room playing the game? What is the draw? To you and me today playing Dungeons & Dragons, it might be to create a compelling story together with your friends, to have fun character interactions, to overcome some otherworldly evil and save the realm. But back in 1979, it was roll dice, get loot, kill monster. End of. And so as Dungeon Masters, all we need for the players to be motivated is a good dungeon with some loot. However, the modern D&D player is a very different beast altogether. People who've watched Lord of the Rings and thought, I want to be part of that, I want to do that, I want to create and be part of something that's as cool and engaging as that. So as DMs, we've got a little bit of a different job now. And it starts with taking the player motivation and turning that into player character motivation. And where does a player character's motivation come from? Their backstory. So, when I'm starting a new campaign and spending time with my players creating their backstories, there are 3 things I want to get from their backstory that's going to help motivate their player character. I want their backstories to be simple, emotional, and political. Now let's break that down with an example. So the first point is the most contentious one, a simple backstory. Some players like to write paragraphs about their character. I have players who write thousands and thousands of words about their characters, and that's great. But ultimately, I want to understand, what does your backstory mean in its simplest form? What's the key defining trait of your character's backstory that's going to define their personality and motivation? So here's an example of a simple backstory. And we're going to use the same backstory for all 3 of these points. So point number 1, simple. Once I was a farmer, but I took up the sword. Dead simple. That's in its simplest form. This person was a farmer and now they're a fighter. Point 2, emotional. I want the player character to have an emotional hook. And this is what's going to get them emotionally engaged in the story we tell. If they care about their character, they'll start to care about the things that happen to their character, and therefore the things that are happening in the world. So using our simple example of I was a farmer and picked up the sword, to inject emotion into it, we need only ask why. Goblins killed my family. And there's your emotional cornerstone for this character. Goblins killed his family, and now he could seek revenge. He seeks to confront the goblins. He seeks personal atonement. Perhaps he feels he failed as a father. Perhaps he wants to raise a new family. Perhaps he's emotionally scarred for the rest of his life and he'll never overcome the grief. Although between you and me, he totally should, because that's a really cool character arc. Now, so far we have a backstory that's simple and emotional. Which brings us to our 3rd point, political. This one's really near and dear to my heart. And it's so often overlooked when people make backstories. So how do we apply politics to our backstory? Well, let's take what we've got. I was once a farmer, but I took up the sword when goblins killed my family. The way to make it political is simply to tie it into the motivations of other characters in the world. Perhaps the goblins were a pawn of a scheming court wizard. Maybe one of the characters actually meet in the course of the game. Perhaps the goblins are expanding their territory at the behest of a hobgoblin warlord who seeks to rule the entire area. Maybe the goblins were paid by a rival farm owner because he wanted the farm. And that's all you need for your political slant. It's a way to take what the character has and now externalise it. So far everything's really internal, it's all in the character's head. Their feelings, now we've externalised it. We've made it a force to be reckoned with in the game. And that leads to all kinds of fun adventures for the player. Perhaps one session you drop your fighter a little hint as to where the goblins might be. He chases them down, slaughters them all. While searching the bodies, he finds a note from a wizard thanking them with gold. And your player will be like, wait, what? That's part of their backstory, you don't even need to tell them, because now you've created something for them to discover in the world. And all we're trying to do is give the players something that invests them into the world using what's theirs. What's going to invest the player more? Telling them that a wizard is paying goblins to attack people? Or finding out that the goblins who killed their family were being paid by a wizard they trusted? Oh, it's so dramatic, I love it. The modern Dungeons & Dragons player wants to be part of a cool, compelling, emotional, engaging story. And as Dungeon Masters, it's our job to provide. Hope you enjoyed this video. It's been the 3rd in my series of D&D videos, which I think I'm going to be making for quite a while. I've got a lot to talk about on it. If you think anything I've said is worth a damn, feel free to give the video a like, a subscribe, maybe even a share if you're feeling extreme. My plan is to post one of these every week, so stay tuned for more D&D nonsense from a rambling Scottish guy. Thanks for watching.